a very, very warm welcome for today's webinar. My name is Sarah, and I'm an assistant editor, at HT Media, where I report on education and skill development. I'm very grateful to all of you for joining us on this sunny Saturday morning from all across Delhi, NCR, and other parts of North India to discuss in detail about science education. I am guessing more people are joining in, and we will let them do that, but we will start because we are quite a few of us already. As you know, today's webinar is called Pedagogies in Science Education, Learnings and Strategies for the Way Ahead. And we are very grateful to be joined by Dr. Ajit Kumar Chaturvedi, who was the former director of IIT Roorkee and is currently professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Kanpur. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. It's a privilege and honor to have you among us. I will just quickly introduce Dr. Chaturvedi's long-standing credentials for those who may not know about academics, since so many of them work so hard without being at the front line of getting accolades and recognition. Dr. Chaturvedi received the BTech, MTech, and PhD degrees in electrical engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur in 1986, 88, and 1995, respectively. He has previously served the Department of Electronics Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Banaras Hindu University from 1994 to 96. Subsequently, he joined the faculty of the Department of Electronics and Computer Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. In 1999, he moved to IIT Kanpur, where he also held the positions of Head of the Department of Electrical Engineering, Dean of Research and Development, and Deputy Director. Now, we are very grateful. Mr. Chaturvedi is also the recipient of several awards, including the INSA Teachers Award, the Distinguished Teacher Award of IIT Kanpur, and the Tan Chin Tuan Fellowship of Nanyang Technical University, Singapore. He is a founding member of the Telecom Standards Development Society of India. He was also a member of the DOT committee, which recommended criteria for spectrum allocation to telecom operators. Dr. Chaturvedi is also a very, very passionate educator, and that is why he is among us today to share more about his insights. Before I hand over the mic to Sir, I have a humble request. I request everyone to please keep your mics muted, and if possible, perhaps your videos on, but definitely mics muted for sure. With that note, I am very, very grateful. I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you for joining us, and the mic is now yours. Of course, we will open for Q&A at the end, but for now, the stage is yours, sir. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for this very kind and elaborate introduction. Thanks to HT Media for giving me an opportunity to speak on this important topic to some of our very important stakeholders in Indian society, the principals and teachers who are engaged in science education at the high school and intermediate level. Needless to add, they are the founding blocks, building blocks for whatever our society can innovate. I have structured the talk in a more informal sense that I will be speaking for about 15-20 minutes. And I will be talking about a few points which may look very, on the surface of it, they may look slightly alien or slightly unconventional, but I hope that it will provoke some discussion, some question-answer sessions, which will educate all of us, including myself, on this very important topic. None of us, especially myself, can claim to be an expert on this domain. But we are all experimenting in this domain for quite long. And so we all have some experience which we can share for the benefit of all of us. So please take this talk in this spirit. Please note down whatever questions or queries come to your mind while I'm speaking for that initial 15-20 minutes. And after that, I think your questions will be valuable to add value to everybody's time who has joined today. And I can see that more than 200 people have joined, 216. That's a very encouraging number. So let's respect everybody's time and let's give everybody the value to their 1 hour that they're giving on a precious Saturday morning. Let me quickly come to the point now. So I would basically first be talking about 5 points. These 5 points I see as they are some kind of a hurdle or some kind of a roadblock towards sparking innovation and the spirit of invention amongst our society, especially our children who are pursuing science at class 11 and 12 level. Out of these points, 5 points that I want to list initially, one by one, 2 points are of a kind which individually we cannot influence much, because they are sort of um, a reality of Indian society, and maybe it cannot change overnight. It will take some time to change. So we have to live with that. Those two are very important points, but even when we live with those points, it is still possible for us to improve the level of innovation in our society by sparking the spirit amongst our students. So the first and foremost thing that I'm going to mention is, and which I believe probably will be a surprise to many of you, is that in the Indian education system, there is a lot of distance between the person who is teaching and the person or the student who is being taught. And what I mean by distance is that there is an inbuilt hierarchy that the person who is teaching, he or she is a repository of almost everything that a student may inquire for, or he is in some sense, pardon me for using the word superior, in some sense superior to the person who is being taught. And we often get carried away to take it further in terms of the Indian tradition. We say in Indian there is Guru Shishya Parampara, and the Guru is naturally deserves a lot of respect. And I fully agree with that. I have absolutely no qualms about that, the Guru definitely deserves a lot of respect. But this respect should not translate into creating a barrier or a distance between the teacher and the student. And that, I believe, is the most important hurdle that is preventing us from realizing our potential. In fact, if IITs have done some things good that the society respects, and one thing that IITs have harped upon and have gained from is by reducing the distance between the teacher and the student. If I may say so, the notion of respect for a teacher should be there in the hearts and the minds of the students, and should not be expressed in the form that the student cannot question the teacher. In fact, the more we encourage the student to question the teacher, the more we encourage the student to raise questions, whatever come to his mind, however stupid or however wise those questions are. I think that is the core of innovation. The core of science teaching is the ability to ask questions, the ability to get rid of the fear of asking questions, because research and innovation is ultimately asking questions. In fact, many of my own senior teachers from whom I have studied, and my personal experience is that my research proceeds further when I ask the right questions. Sometimes if I ask the right question, answer is very easy, but I'm not able to innovate because I'm not asking the right question. And so this, if we can kindle this thing in the minds of the teachers and principals in the school, class 11 and 12, that let us not view that the student is somebody who is not wise enough, who is not good enough, who is not capable enough to be better than the teacher. In fact, I'm very proud to say that some of my students have done better than me. In fact, they bring more glory and pride to me because they are viewed as somebody whom I have taught. But in terms of their achievement in the innovation world, they have done better than me. So that same spirit, of course, pervades through the schools, because I know that the schools take a lot of pride when the students do well. But can it happen while the students are inside the school, inside the classroom? So this is my first point, that notion of respect has to change. The distance between the teacher and the student has to change. The spirit of raising questions has to be encouraged. And the teacher should not in any way hesitate to say, I don't know the answer to this question. Maybe nobody knows the answer to this question. Maybe someone else knows the answer to this question. I will read it. I will try to discuss with others. And if I can get an answer to this question, I will respond maybe next class or next week or next month. But I will try to honestly find out the answer to this question. And believe me, answers to many questions are still not known to science. And maybe the student is asking a question, the answer to which nobody knows. Not even a Nobel laureate knows. So we should not be shy or hesitate in terms of acknowledging the importance of the question and accepting that, yes, the answer is not known. Second thing is thing that I want to talk about, and which again I view as some kind of a hurdle to create innovation in our society, is the examination system. Our examination system needs more innovation, needs more innovation in itself, so that it is able to customize itself as per the needs and talent of each student. And if each student is difficult, maybe we can create groups of students for whom we can create good assessment methods, good methods of finding out how much they have understood. The need not to have theory papers deciding everything about the student. If you look at our school, maybe I'm slightly outdated in terms of what is happening in 2022 in terms of schools. Maybe a lot of innovation has already happened. But from whatever I have seen from the kids that I'm exposed to, or from the society that I talk to, there is still a lot of emphasis on evaluating the students based on theoretical answers that the student writes in their notebook. That is a big bane of which prevents innovation. I think the spirit of experimenting, the spirit of doing things by hand, we all know is very crucial. And unless we realize that in the examination system, that the examination system needs some kind of a tinkering, some kind of an overhaul, and it need not be a complete overhaul. I'm not saying that completely throw away whatever is there today. I think innovation also happens step by step. Maybe let's do 10% change. Let's do 20% change. Let us learn from that change. We know that parents and students are extremely paranoid about what marks they get. We are all familiar. I'm also a teacher. They are very paranoid. And this paranoia is hurting innovation, because the teachers are getting pushed into a corner in terms of designing questions so that tomorrow the students and the parents don't question them. And here the role of the principal becomes very important. I think the principals, if they can give more freedom to our teachers, that as long as you don't show undue favor or undue hurt to any student, I'm there to protect you in terms of responding to the queries from the parents and the students about why they got whatever they got. Of course, many schools would have shifted to grading system. Grading system is very important, because this 1 mark, haggling for 1 mark, half a mark, 2 marks, that is not in the interest of anybody. Long back, IITs had switched to grading system. I'm sure most schools have shifted to grading system. That is very much required. But grading system alone will not do unless we try and see that two kinds of things, two specific points that I'm trying to make by arguing in this manner is, first point is, let us not rely entirely on the written answer scripts. Some kind of an oral exam, some kind of an exam by hands. These should be components, important components in deciding the final grade. And there is naturally an individual assessment will come into play, because here the question paper is not same for everybody. When you are asking questions in the Viva, or when you are asking the student by hand to do by hand, you are evaluating the student directly. And that is where it may come that, okay, the level playing field is disturbed because everybody is not getting the same question paper. But we must be willing to stick our neck out. If we get bothered by these small questions, we are losing the larger goal. The larger goal is innovation, sparking innovation, science pedagogy. And so we must get over these things. And second thing that I'm trying to say is that this overemphasis on one exam, two exam, three exam, that should not be there. I think there should be some kind of a continuous assessment. The teacher assesses the student over a long period of time. Teacher acknowledges that the student is very bright. The teacher need not necessarily say that publicly, because I know that some students get some kind of a complex if some students are praised too much and some students are not praised too much. And it happens quite often that the students who are praised too much in the classroom, they may not do as well as the students who have not been praised as much. In fact, in terms of more impact or more recognition in the society, many times we see that the schools have not done a very great job in terms of identifying who are the real champions or who the real winners are. Let me go to the next point. I can dwell more on this point, but let me go to the next point. The next point I want to mention is, and this is the last point where I would say that something that you can make a difference yourself. Let us not view the classroom as if the classroom is meant only for a one-way dialogue to impart knowledge and education to the student. What I mean is that let us view the classroom as a lab in which discovery and innovation can happen. The classroom itself can be a great place for discovery and innovation. So that means that teaching need not be a one-way dialogue. 90% of the time the teacher is talking and only 10% of the time student is talking, can become 70-30, can become 60-40, can become 50-50. Maybe in fact, it can even become 40-60. 40% the time the teacher is talking, 60% time the student is talking. And this participation, this dialogue, this breaking of the monologue will lead to opportunities for raising right questions. And raising right questions means creating innovation there itself. See, today, the reality is that there is all amount of knowledge that is existing on Google, on various YouTube videos, on various PDF documents. So the facts and the information, students, it's there at their fingertips. The ability to think, the ability to discuss, the ability to raise queries, that is where the teacher's role and the school's role is important. And because the students have become, see, when I was in class 10 and 12, the level of maturity that me and my friends would have, today's class 10 and 12 students have much more maturity because of the advancement of science, because of the advancement of engineering and access of information on their fingertips. And because so much of things have become available, so the amount of maturity that they have, that means that now we can even look at classrooms as places for creating innovation. And this innovation doesn't mean only getting a Nobel Prize or getting a new patent. It can be even that. I'm not saying it should not be that. It cannot be that. But it can be even new ways of teaching. Maybe the more the student speaks, the teacher gets to know, okay, next time I can teach or introduce the subject from this way. Maybe it also gives the teacher a new direction or a new perspective on the topic, in which the teacher can use different kinds of plots to explain the same concept to different levels of students. Because we all know that all the students are not equal. In fact, their academic preparation is not equal. Their mental level, the ability to grasp concepts is not equal. Some are very quick, some are slow. But those who are slow need not necessarily be poor innovators. I mean, here we miss the bus. Those who understand quickly, they need not be the best person who will do the innovation tomorrow, who will do the research tomorrow. In fact, sometimes those who take time to understand, it is because they are thinking more deeper than those who have understood. I think this sentence is very important, that some students who understand early may not have thought that deeply as a student who is struggling to understand what you are teaching. So this kind of gradation in terms of comprehension ability, in terms of ability to think deeply, in terms of ability to dig deeply, and the more deeper you dig, the chances of you innovating or doing research is more. And that is what is the objective of science pedagogy. The objective of science pedagogy is not to fill the student's mind with lot of information, lot of theorems, lot of results. It is to get the student the ability to ask questions. And data is there, as I said, information is there. And the more these kinds of thinking happen, what will happen is Indian society will have more innovation. And if we have more innovation, then the purpose of science pedagogy is indeed fulfilled. So science pedagogy has to create curiosity, like whether we say discovery means whatever is already there, you discover it. It's already there, whether you discover it or not. Maybe it will be discovered 50 years later. Maybe it has been discovered 50 years earlier. And invention is that something that is not there and you create. These are the basic two kinds of things that take society forward, that create more opportunities for employment, that improve the quality of our life, all these things. Now, let me quickly come to two things which probably are not within the grasp of ourselves, the teachers, the principals, myself. And these are the huge size of the syllabus that is there in our class 11 and 12. I don't think a huge size of the syllabus is helping anyone. The more reduction in the syllabus we can make, I think it will be better for science teaching. It will be able to attract more students to science. We'll be able to attract those students to learn what is science, and we'll get those students to do more good impact in creating new science. Because science needs more science. Science teaches us to create more science. And this can happen only when we can reduce the syllabus. So wherever you are, in whichever committee you are, whether a board committee, whether school committee, whenever you get an opportunity, I think we must try to do this. In fact, many IITs are also struggling with this challenge, that how to reduce the syllabus. Because every day information is more, information is growing. So that way the syllabus should also keep on growing. But for example, the BTech program is only 4-year-old. How do you you were teaching for a 4-year program 50 years back, and today when knowledge has advanced so much, still 4 years? How are you doing it? You are doing it by throwing away a lot of things, by deciding what to keep, by deciding what not to keep. And if the schools can make students more thirsty and hungry for science, I mean, the thirst and the hunger for science, that is so crucial, that if you feed so much of meal, so much of food, of science food to the student, that he is so full that he or she has no more appetite for science. And science becomes only an avenue for providing employment. Science becomes only an avenue for getting recognized in society. No, science should not be an avenue for getting recognized in society. Science should not be an avenue for just employment. Science should be an avenue for somebody to become very restless to find answers. Science should lead to pain inside the body, that unless this thing comes out of me, like literary figures are there who write great fiction. I mean, they get something in their body and mind, and they cannot rest unless they write it down. Same thing, a science student should get restless unless he or she understands whatever he's trying to understand. And for that understanding, he may take the help of a friend, for a teacher. He may spend long hours together. He may take the help of Google and all that. But then we have done good science teaching if we have created in him the restlessness, the thirst, the hunger to study, understand, raise questions, and create more science. The fifth point that I want to mention is again not within our reach, just like syllabus I said, and that is the dearth of professional seats at engineering and medical level. That also hurts science, because our class 11 and 12 students, they have to work very hard in terms of doing well in their entrance exams, whether engineering entrance exams or whether medical entrance exams, and in their pressure in terms of the parental pressure, societal pressure to be able to get a secure life after class 12. They spend a lot of time in terms of doing and studying science, but in the process lose the interest in science. It's a great contradiction in our society that those who do such good science, those who do such good engineering and medicine, often because of a variety of societal pressures, they don't get interested in creating more science. They don't get interested in the innate nature of science, but they get attracted more towards the recognition that it builds and get more attracted towards getting immediate targets like getting an engineering seat or getting a medical seat. If we can create maybe more seats, more employment opportunities, if the competition for these seats become less, who knows, maybe we will be encouraging science more. Then more people would be doing true science, more people will be attracted towards good science, and science pedagogy will get a very bright sunny day on when that happens, because more people will be able, will get people genuinely interested in science, and people who can devote time to understand science and love science. Now, let me switch gears and I will quickly finish. I think I've taken slightly longer than I had intended. But if the messages will hopefully go through, then I hope Sarah will not mind if I take a little more time. So quickly, 2 more points. Now, how to, I mean, the initial 5 points were more like in the sense of taking direction. They were not very specific points that you can do in the class. They were more sort of how you can sort of orient yourself, your classroom. So 2 things that's very specific things that you can do is, one thing is that, for example, when you are teaching physics or chemistry or maths or biology, I think we teachers can try and create gaps in the teaching, deliberate gaps. For example, if you are teaching, say, 3 or 4 pages of a book from some book, now don't teach the complete 3-4 pages. Do one of the following things. Teach only one half of the page and then ask the student to imagine. And in the next day, next classroom, the student should come and say, what could be the next 50%, or what could be the next 30%, or what could be the next 10%. Deliberately don't teach the complete story. Teach 80%, 50%, 60% of any topic. I'm saying for any topic, and some topics may be more friendly to this advice. Some topics may not be very friendly to this advice. Teach only that portion, and now let the students start imagining. And you will see something interesting. Some people will come back with the answers that are there in the book. That means they will complete the story the way the book has completed it. Some others will have different endings. And that will create the joy of science. That will create more discussion. That will create more liveliness in the class. Now, this need not be done in terms of exactly that you do first 70% and then the 30% is left. In fact, it can be done in this manner also, that if you have, say, 100% of maybe 5 pages of teaching, teach one paragraph, leave one paragraph gap. Teach the next paragraph, again gap. So create intermittent gaps from whatever is there in the textbook. I know the student will maybe less love you initially. Oh, the teacher is not telling the full story. The teacher is creating gaps, right? But the student will like you 1 month later. I know as teachers, we are hungry to get the appreciation of our students. And in that desire, we try to impress our students. But let us deliberately create these kinds of hurdles in the minds of the students. And then they start enjoying the class more. And then you will see they will appreciate more, they will understand more. Last point that I want to make is that in case you are not already doing it, there are many very interesting YouTube videos in which you can create without investing money, without using costly equipments, lot of very interesting scientific experiments at the school level can be done. And there are 2 specific names that I want to mention. There are more names. One is Dr. Manish Jain of IIT Gandhinagar. If you look at his YouTube videos, then he does a lot of this science by playing. And all whatever tools he plays with, they are all very inexpensive, very simple tools. So that is one name that I want to take. Second name is, of course, Professor H.C. Verma, who is very popular with his YouTube videos at the school level. Again, trying to do science by using hands, by experimentation. And because if you are using your hands and you are more experimenting, that naturally, that is the most important component of science. That is a natural ally of science. And that will encourage and enhance our scientific pedagogy in terms of the school level scientific pedagogy required. So let me conclude here. And I'll be happy to take this discussion forward in whatever manner Sarah and the audience would like to take it forward. Oh, now I can see participants are 304. That's wonderful. Yeah. So Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'll put the two names in the chat box. One is Dr. H.C. Verma and the other one is?
Manish Jain of IIT Gandhinagar. There are multiple Manish Jain, so it is important to write IIT Gandhinagar.
Okay, okay.
Manish, yeah.
Yes, sir. We are open for questions now. You can either put your questions in the chat box or you can use the reaction tab at the bottom and show a thumbs up and we can come to you with a question. Till everyone just sort of wraps their thoughts and comes up with questions, I will quickly jump on this opportunity and ask you so that if you see, as you have also outlined, as in the new national education policy, there is a lot of focus on the concept of play. And even though that play focus is slightly more early childhood, but that is the underlying theme for all levels. But if you, and I'm sure that if teachers get to it, they can incorporate an element of play with the right support. But two problems here. One, that at the higher education level, a lot of times what happens is that students are not turning up to class in school because they are very busy attending coaching classes, and attendance is a huge problem at the higher education level. The second problem is, sir, that from a societal mindset, like you yourself have pointed out, it's no longer even a question of employment. It's a question of social recognition that 10 years ago when I was in college, people wanted to go to IITs to get good placement. Now they want to go to IIT because it's a shortcut to US green card and Canadian PR. Now, the thing is that this is also a societal problem, but this is perhaps something that syllabus alone cannot solve. Maybe conversationally teachers can solve. So if you have any thoughts on that, and then there are questions in the chat box, I will come to those.
Sure, sure. See, first, let me take the first part of your comment regarding the importance of play and in terms of the national education policy. So, in fact, these YouTube videos by Dr. Manish Chan, they actually provide play, how to play with higher level scientific concepts. In fact, it is not at an early school level. It is not something that is for school children at a smaller age. It is for children at class 10, 11, 12, even at the engineering students, that how they can understand these deep concepts, more important concepts by simple play. So some kind of games and plays by which they can create these kinds of things. Now, coming to the second point, I think you are raising a very important point. That is the question of attendance. So if it provides some solace to the teachers, attendance is a problem across higher education also. It is not limited to schools. Of course, schools, the reason is this coaching class. In higher education, the reasons are different. So what I would say is that I do not have a remedy immediately to be able to answer, to give a quick fixed remedy that how this can be done. But I will give you some other related thought, and that may probably give some life to the teachers in this sense. See, society and the world at large changes sometimes very rapidly. I mean, if you look at the changes that have happened in the last, say, 100 years, maybe similar kind of changes can happen in the next 10 years or next 20 years. What I'm trying to say is, let us not continue to believe that this will remain true for all times to come. I would not be surprised if suddenly the society says, okay, no, we have changed our course, and now we are not into engineering, medicine, or this. We want to do this, we want to do that. We want to become early entrepreneurs. We don't want to, what is the purpose of education? Why should I go for higher education? Why can't I do this even after my class 12? Why can't I do correspondence graduation? What is the necessity of doing an engineering degree? All these kinds of questions are already coming. Right? It is not that what I'm saying is not happening. Maybe in 3-5 years timeline, you will see suddenly, oh, this problem is gone. And then you're not prepared for it. So keep on working with the mindset that this problem is not permanent. Keep on not thinking in terms of thinking how you can combat this problem by more pragmatic solutions rather than getting demoralized by it. These are the two immediate things that come to my mind. maybe we can have a separate session on this so that I can understand it better and if I can help offer anything more.
Great thinking point, sir. Great. Some food for thought for all of us, actually. There's a question that could you suggest names of some YouTube channels for chemistry, like HC Verma in physics?
That I'll have to find out. I don't readily know. This Manish Jain is good for both maths. He does good things for maths and as well as physics. Chemistry, I'm sorry, I don't have an immediate answer to that. It is possible. See, one problem with our subject chemistry is that somehow our textbooks or teachers in chemistry have not put in enough effort in terms of laying the syllabus in the manner in which it should be done. But recently I heard that many Kendriya Vidyalaya teachers and the Kendriya Vidyalaya itself has taken an initiative by which chemistry teaching is being done by IIT teachers to the Kendriya Vidyalaya teachers. It happened earlier also, and only yesterday I got this news that IIT would keep chemistry teacher teaching the chemistry teachers of class 11 and 12. So if these kinds of things happen more, maybe it will be possible to translate some of this into YouTube videos also. Readily, I don't have an answer.
No problem. So I have a question here which says that experiential learning is a new way of teaching students to lead to more inventions, but how do we help students who need extra attention in any subject?
So, so that is where I was saying that first step is to recognize that every student is not same. Second step is to recognize that those students who appear bright, who you think are bright, are not necessarily the ahead or the winners of those students who you think are dumb, right? Now, having done these two things, for different topics, maybe you will have different segregation in the class. That means for this topic, maybe these 10 students are ahead. For this topic, the other 10 students are ahead. And I think if we can engage all the students for this 50-minute classroom, and then the teacher can create breakout groups. Is it possible to do that? Probably it is possible to do these breakout groups. Create those groups. Maybe initially you can do that randomly, not necessarily by design, not necessarily by saying, okay, A, B, C, you go here, D, E, F, you go there. Okay, we create random groups. Now, if you create those random groups, it will be possible to give personal attention to each group separately, maybe for 5 minutes, maybe for 10 minutes. And every group which is not getting the personal attention of the teacher can do the discussion and prepare for engaging the teacher when the teacher is free for that group. So this notion of creating breakout groups has worked very well in some higher education institutions. I'm sure the school level also it will work very well.
Okay, so there's one more question about how can we make chemistry more interesting for non-medical students?
No, why only for non-medical students? I would say for every student. And see, in fact, I'll give you one interesting personal experience I had only a couple of months back. And we were doing a session at IIT Roorkee. At that time, I was at IIT Roorkee. And we were doing a session for students who had recently qualified for JEE Advanced. And those students had come and I was interacting with them. And then one student raises his hand and says, sir, why are we taught chemistry? Why is chemistry a subject at a pre-engineering level and why is it taught at in IIT also? So I asked him a simple question. Do you know the material on which you are sitting, the chair? Which material is it made of? The walls of the room in which we are sitting, do we know what is the material? What is the composition that has made it? Do you think that any engineering is possible without knowing the nature of the material, without knowing the chemistry of the material, how to make it? And immediately there was a deep sense of realization that probably we are not appreciating the importance of chemistry. And that is probably leading us to some kind of a prioritizing chemistry at a lower level compared to what its importance is. In fact, it is very important. It is important for everything, including engineering, because if you have to create products, you need material for it. And how do you get the material for it? You need the chemical composition, you need how to make it, you need how to process it, you need what properties you want, everything flows from chemistry in that sense. So it is not at all divorced from the world around us. if we can relate to the students, the things from the world around us, rather than saying that there is some sulfuric acid, there's some hydrochloric acid, which the student is not seeing, not thinking why it is important, why hydrochloric acid is important. So maybe that could be the reason why there is less interest. If probably we need more good teachers in chemistry, which can create this kind of spark.
Thank you, sir. We, in between questions, we are also peppered with some very lovely accolades coming your way, where people have found the session to be very thought-provoking. There's also a question which says, can you suggest some innovative ways of assessments?
Right. See, there the main hurdle is our fear in the mind that how to satisfy the grade that I will give to the student. Can you get rid of that fear? I don't know whether your school will support you in that. I don't know whether your principal will support you in that. If the principals are willing to support the teachers, that you go ahead and grade, and we will make sure that the teacher, the student or the parents don't get a feeling that you have been vindictive, that you have been partial, that you have favored your favorite student. That kind of feeling will not come. Then of course you yourself know how to do that. It is not that difficult. I think because of this thing, that is probably the biggest hurdle which is preventing us from doing the assessment methods differently for different students. And as I said, you cannot do the assessment just by making a common question paper for all the students. That itself is a suboptimum way of doing it. It's not the best way of doing it. You have to bring in some hands-on, maybe not in all the subjects, in some subjects. You have to bring in some kind of a viva voce, maybe not for all the subjects, but for some subjects. And the moment you have a viva voce, the moment you have hands-on, it becomes unique to that student. It is not the same question paper for all. And that I hope that teachers, if there are principals in this session, they will think how their school can encourage this. If their school can encourage this, more schools will follow.
Sir, I think this is one more question is, how do we, I'll take two questions together and you can respond to them. One question is that physics has always felt like a threatening subject to medical students. How do we eliminate the threat there? And the second question is that the new education policy talks about different types of subject combinations instead of segregated streams. So like say physics with accountancy, how ready are we to pursue this at the higher education level?
Right. So both questions are very good questions first to me. So now let me first take up this question where you said that, sorry, I missed the question.
Sir, about physics being threatening for medical students.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good question. So what I'm saying is the reason why it happens is very obvious. It's a very easy answer to this question, although the question is very important. See, because we have taught physics as if unless you are good at maths, you cannot study physics. That is where we are creating the problem. I think physics can be taught at a conceptual level, first giving good examples, first explaining the logic, first explaining the reasoning. If we go by logical reasoning methods and then say that, okay, the same thing can be supported by maths, and that maths is not necessarily a very advanced maths. I mean, some calculus can be taught to the medical student very easily. It is not that the medical student is incapable of understanding calculus. No, that is not true. The medical student has made a conscious choice that between maths and biology, the student will take up biology. And that is probably happening because some kind of a distaste or some kind of a fear or some kind of a hatred for maths has been built in the student's mind. We are not going to tell the student, oh, no, you have to study maths. Pick up some elementary maths, and calculus is very, very elementary. I mean, differentiation is not something which is very difficult for any student, not even for an arts student. It can be done. Maybe a little more time will be required for a student who is from arts or who is from biology, but it can be done. If we can do this and emphasize more on the physics concepts, less on mathematics, then the student will pick up mathematics and physics both and will be able to do it. It needs some kind of experimentation in this direction. I think it is very much doable. Second question was, higher education is ready? Yes, higher education is ready for different combinations. The only interesting problem that
that needs a better solution is the timetabling problem. See, what happens is that, for example, in the IIT system, we allow the students to completely explore all the departments. You go to humanities, you go to management, you go to chemical engineering, you go to electrical engineering, you go to physics, pick up electives from there. We do all that. The real problem comes in terms of timetabling the exams and the lectures. So higher education mentally is very well prepared for accountancy with physics. I don't see any problem in that happening. Maybe all possible combinations will not be possible, but these breaking of streams is definitely very much doable.
Sir, in the interest of time and in the interest of your time also, I will quickly close with one question where we being asked that how to teach science effectively to students with special needs.
Yeah, I think first thing we have to understand that the student with special needs, they have something more than the other students in other faculties. At least that's what my exposure is. Sometimes they are very intuitive, sometimes they are very creative, because they are sort of probably missing out on something that other normal students have those. So if we can first recognize that this is a child which has some extra skills, rather than first looking at that this is a child who has some less things. I think some of this problem is coming from our mental barriers that we look upon this as a problem rather than as an opportunity to test our teaching skills. If we use it as an opportunity to test our teaching skills, that how I can use the special ability that the student has, then I think the job will not be as difficult as it may initially appear to. I think it's very important that we work in this direction. In fact, in IITs now, many more and more such students are coming, and some of them are doing very well. In fact, they pick up very well. They are very confident in terms of their communication skills. They're very articulate. They do well in the exams. I think just like other students, I think some of them may not be doing that well. Some may be doing very well. So just like other students, they are not very different, except that the commonly available things may be somewhere less, but they are some special in some other things. So let us look upon them as opportunities rather than as problems or issues to teach.
That's a great thought to end our session on. Thank you so much, sir. As everybody in that chat box writes, they have been, it's indeed been a thought-provoking session. There's a lot of food for thought, and I will take the liberty to call this a stupendous success. And I'm very, very grateful to you, sir, for taking the time out to be here. Before we just quickly close, a huge thank you from HT Media, HT School, and all the teachers. We started at about 100 people. We are closing at nearly 320 people. So I am grateful. Sir, if you would like to sort of log off for other commitments, that's absolutely okay. We just hold on for 5 more minutes because I want to run through a presentation. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you once again.
If you can send the recording of the session, then
I will absolutely do that. On behalf of HT Media, the school teacher community and educators, thank you so much for your time, sir.
And you can share it with the audience also so that
absolutely,
they can...
Absolutely. We will do that.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.